Listening Test 3, Part 4. You will hear an interview with travel writer Amy McCarthy about her first experience of travelling abroad. For questions 24 to 30, choose the best answer, A, B or C. You now have 1 minute to look at Part 4.
Could you tell us, Amy, about the first time you travelled abroad and why?
I was just 18 and back in those days I had no confidence in my ability to travel on my own and pick up other languages, much less actually live and work abroad as I do now. So when Carla and Nikki asked if I'd be interested in joining them for a few weeks somewhere sunny, I immediately said yes, and we chose a holiday on the Spanish island of Ibiza.
Why Ibiza in particular?
I love seeing new places, and as it was somewhere neither Carla nor I had ever visited before, Nikki agreed she'd like to go back there, even though it had cost a bit more than going to a Greek or Turkish island, say. I suppose what appealed to us was that it offered such a wide range of activities, including, of course, its famous nightlife. So we found a reasonably priced package holiday for 3, booked it, and on the 1st of July, I headed for the airport.
How did you feel as your journey began?
To be honest, it didn't start terribly well. I was too late for the airport bus and ended up taking a taxi so as not to miss my flight, only to find at the terminal that it had been delayed for 2 hours. So I spent the morning shopping there, until I suddenly noticed my wallet was half empty and I hadn't even left the country yet. Feeling a bit angry with myself, I decided to get something to eat, but the high prices put me off and I wished I'd brought some sandwiches, as the other 2 had.
And how did you get on?
Quite well at first, but then there were a couple of disagreements, including one between the other 2 about who should go out for bread. I don't eat it much, so I wasn't really bothered, nor was I particularly concerned about Carla's habit of accidentally locking herself out of the flat, but I did get irritated when I kept seeing used cups, saucers and plates lying around next to the sofa or armchair where she'd been sitting. It's not something anyone in my family would have done.
Were you missing them?
Yes, I didn't want to admit it, but I was.
So did you stay in touch with them while you were away?
Well, before I left, my parents had asked me to phone them while I was away, and I'd said I definitely would. But whenever I felt like doing so, somehow I couldn't. I wanted to be able to tell them what a great time I was having, but as soon as they heard my voice, they'd know I wasn't. I felt guilty because they'd topped up my phone for me, so there was no way I could use lack of credit as an excuse.
Did things improve later in the holiday, or did you wish you'd organised things differently?
A bit of both, really. We decided we'd each make lunch every 3rd day, and that worked pretty well, I found. I was also glad I didn't have to buy much while I was away, because I already had most of the things I needed in my suitcase. I did feel, though, that a fortnight would have been enough, and I could have done without the 3rd week there. Still, I was the one who'd actually made the reservation, so I couldn't complain.
How did you feel about it all on your return home?
I had mixed feelings, really. I knew I'd made mistakes, but I also felt sure I'd been taught some important lessons which would benefit me the next time I went away. And that gave me the confidence to try again, perhaps with different friends, or, more likely, on my own. Because somehow I knew that one day, once I'd graduated in a few years' time, I'd return to Spain and get a job there, which is exactly what I ended up doing.
Thank you, Amy.
That is the end of part 4. There will now be a pause of 5 minutes for you to copy your answers onto the separate answer sheet. Be sure to follow the numbering of all the questions. I shall remind you when there is 1 minute left so that you are sure to finish in time. You have 1 minute left. That is the end of the test. Please stop now. Your supervisor will now collect all the question papers and answer sheets.